let us know when you are ready. Going to present to us is technological innovation in social innovation context, specialties of pro-poor solutions in waste management from an Indian perspective. You can imagine a foreigner talking from an Indian perspective. Let us welcome Professor Diego Guild.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm quite aware it's 6 o'clock, so I'm going to try to make this alive and as short as possible. I'm very privileged and blessed to be able to explain you why I'm here as a French person and why I'm actually studying here in this full Indian university. Many of you may have heard of Mata Amritananda Mai, Amma, who's a spiritual master from South India, from Kerala, and she has founded a university called Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, which is based, my two campuses are Coimbatore and Bangalore. And so today, just next slide. So my name is Marc-Antoine Diego Guidi. As the panel rightly said, I don't really sound French, but at least Marc-Antoine is French, so I'm just a mix. In India you would say I'm a mix of a Tamilian and a Gujarati. So I'm from south of France and the middle of France. The context and the things I'm going to speak about today are clearly social innovation and waste management. And I will get to the core of the article I'm presenting a few slides later. Next slide, please. More specifically, the core topic of my PhD is what are the pro-poor solutions. Basically, I don't like the term of POP, the bottom of the pyramid, but this is what I am addressing. The poor communities and what kind of social innovation solutions can actually make them thrive, make them take their own future in their own hands. What are the factors that impact the implementation of such projects? Is it all about technology, technical innovation, high-tech, low-tech? In India, every time we speak about something, the panacea is everything is going to be coming from technology. Indian technologists scientists are very, very famous around the world, but has it brought solution to waste management so far? Has it brought solution to governance so far? I have some doubts, having lived in India for 3 years now. Now, what are the core problems around solid waste management? I will tap upon a few of them, and you've heard a lot of things in presentations before. I will try to avoid being repetitive. Is it lack of institutional responses, government intervention, political will? Is it a market failure, or is it ill-defined market base? Is it social costs that are at stake, social aspect, custom uses, or at least even could we say that it's lack of technological solution competencies? I can already say no to that because we've seen in previous presentation that there is a breadth of technological solution at our hands. This is not really the core of the problem. Next slide, please. I would like to set the context now of what we're talking about. This slide is a little bit hard to read, but at least you will get the visual aspect that I'm trying to get. Where is waste mostly produced? Well, it's definitely not in India. We're here, and that's quite clear. That's the lowest. That's here. The guys that are producing a lot of waste are here even. Australia. That's quite a surprise, isn't it? But that's per person. So of course it's not the global generation of waste. If we were looking into tones, that would be a lot more here, and in India would be probably at a very high level. But yet, let's look at this, and the projection between 2012 and 2015 is interesting. In 2000, let's say close to 3 billion urban people were generating 3 million tons per day. It will double by 25, and it will triple by 2100. That's a huge threat on our head. And I remember, if you remember the presentation from the professor from Hong Kong, they don't have a choice. They have 4 or 5 years of nature giving them the space to be able to dumpfill. After that, they have to find other solutions. I love that. They don't have a choice. Here, the IAS member will go and speak to the political guy, and it will say, well, give me 5 more years, or give me 10 more years. We'll do it by the next 2025 goals. Here in Hong Kong, they don't have time. And if the political guy gets too bugged by the IAS member, he sends him to another state. It doesn't work like that in countries where nature is really telling you this has to come to an end. Next slide, please. So, what are the contexts that I would like to stress about solid waste management in India? the facts for me are very hard to verify. I haven't come across yet facts and datas around waste management that are really trustworthy. First of all, you'd never know really how they've been assessed, and secondly, they haven't really been verified by independent bodies. Even NERI, even ministry data are difficult to verify. Basically, let's say that the global production in India is 80,000 tons per day globally. 50% is generated in urban areas with less than 30% people. 30 to 90% collection that we heard today, the disposal 94% of dumpfields, 5% is composted, whereas we have more than, or let's say close to 50% of waste overall in India that is biodegradable, so that could be composted. The urban growth rate, that is very interesting, is 32% over the last 10 years. I went to Surat, and in the last 10 years they doubled. Of course, that's as well because they raised the number of wards and they raised the scale of the Surat municipality itself. But overall, you have cities that doubled over the past 2 years. So here, this graph for me is very important. The 7 mega cities in India are producing, let's say, 30% of the waste of urban India. And then basically all the tier 1 cities in India are producing most of the urban waste. And they are the ones that are growing. The city, second tier, third tier, and fourth tier are downgrading in terms of size. That is the core problem and really major difficulty of India. Very strong and fast urbanization of big megalopoles that are already struggling with the problem. So that means they're still facing it and they haven't found solutions. And that is the core problem. And of course, another thing that hasn't been mentioned as well is a very strong change of uses from biodegradable habits in India to all plastic, and especially soft plastic. I'll come to that. Next slide. I would like to take you a little bit on my journey in India. The first waste management and solid and social innovation experiences I had were 3 years ago in an ashram in South India, and I was just coming there to pray and to get more contact with Indian spirituality. I ended up doing recycling and composting as a Sevite and volunteer, and then I couldn't leave. I started to teach the year after social innovation and social entrepreneurship in Amrita University, and 2 years after, which I never thought I would, at 43 years old, I started a PhD in India. Lots of statistics, because you guys love statistics in India, and I must say that's not my favorite part of the PhD, but I embraced it because the topic that my master Amma gave me was Clean India, Beautiful India. Use what is done really well at the ashram, model it, and look what is replicable, what is scalable outside of the ashram. Basically, build a case study and make it replicable. Today, we've launched 2 core projects that I'm going to speak to you about more in details. The SSR, Social Student Responsibility, and the Eco Village. And now, another initiative which has stemmed out of those 2, which is called the 101 Villages Serve Project. 101 villages that embrace the world, Amma's charity want to adopt and better. So, from a background of French and UK sector and INSEAD alumni of social entrepreneurship, I went into a PhD in India. Next slide, please. So the methods of this article now, to go quickly, it's mostly case-based studies. For this article, empirical field studies. I'm writing another article right now on a statistical regression on 58 cities on waste generation in India. I had 2 articles in Times of India and the Hindu lately calling me the Frenchman on a dumpfield. Well, it's probably I'm the only French guy that goes to municipalities to visit dumpfields, whereas the other ones are going to the beach. And here I was building a community garden in Auroville, and that's one of the cool things I want to do, is building community tools that community will embrace. I heard a lot about other tools, technology, machines, chemicals, but I would like to say that the major tool of all this is human in my presentation. Next slide. So the title of my article, which didn't get revised, is Social Innovation, a study to analyze the factors that impact implementation. What is impacting implementation of social innovation projects in the context of solid waste management? Next slide, please. So the core problems that I witnessed so far, I'm just going to go, you can read, but the core one is this one, the lack of boldness and consistency between IS and political actions. Basically, at the institutional level, when I went to speak to IS members in Gujarat, what they told me is why in Surat they managed in 4 years to put the best practices in place, It's because the IAS members, hand in hand with the political bodies, have kept consistency, and actually they've used change. I'm just going to use one very small example. One IAS member started to write songs, and they would put songs for the cleaners, the workers of the municipality. They would go and shame shop owners. And he told me, when I was catching in the streets shopkeepers that were wasting in the streets, I would make them do sit-ups. And in India, to shame someone in his own business is a lot worse than to give him a fine. So I thought it was really interesting. So exactly what someone before was saying, the scale, the kind of response to solid waste problems have to be adapted to the core uses of the people, and that is custom. So lack of segregation is definitely one of the core in her, is soft plastic.
Of over 100,000 of people, that because you've got a garden inside, that means one of the income is by selling the vegetable. Otherwise, you may not survive. See? So, but how about for a bigger population?
I'm going to answer in two folds. Could you please go back to the slide? Is it possible to go back to slide, sir? Or should I just answer like this? Is it possible to go back to the presentation? I'm going to give you just an answer really with the model that we developed and just the picture so that you see where are the value creation and what are the revenue streams that we thought about, and there's many more. The first answer to your question is this model. Can you please go to the the third to last, which is the picture of the model. So this model is addressing, let's say, 1,000 to 10,000 people. And the idea is not to say we can then make this bigger, so we can make bigger sheds. It's not bigger is going to serve more. It's actually more of those smaller answers. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that at large scale, there's a lot of solutions that have been thought about, and it's okay. They will work, and at some extent, they will serve their purpose. Dump fields, at some extent today, as you rightly said, India is not ready to ban all the dump fields. Nor is France, nor is Germany. There are still dump fields working there, and it's not yet, we are not ready to stop that. But what I'm saying is that there is a space now to say, let's give the communities a chance to own their own waste. First, waste responsibility in India is about property. The responsibility of waste is at the municipality level, because when you dump something in the streets, it becomes the property of the municipality. So because of that, because they own the waste, then they can own the value that they create out of it. In Europe, I own the waste, so I pay taxes for that. I would be very interested to know how many cities in India have started tax waste systems for waste. I don't know. I know that in Auroville, the example I chose, they are starting even to ask people to pay per kilogram of waste that they're disposing. I think it's a very smart idea that is starting over in Europe now. That takes very high level of precision of measurement, which is probably difficult to put at a high community level. The community of Auroville is 2,200 people. Now, what I'm saying is, let's look at Coimbatore. There's 102 wards in Coimbatore. If you say that you put in each ward one system like this, you can probably suck 50 to 60% of the waste of Coimbatore. And as you know, this has a huge cost. I haven't made the math on that, but it's a very easy calculation. Do you think it would be more expensive than building this? I'm not sure. These are calculations that has to be made. Basically, all I'm saying is give a chance to small, as well as give a chance to people. Whereas so far, I've heard a lot in solid waste management about big-scale solutions and old technological solutions. And I don't think they are going to solve everything. There is a space for everything, and the space given to community-engaged solution is not enough, and the space given to this, let's say, balanced approaches is not enough. All my theory is based on two articles that I've read. One again from Michael Porter, which is called Shared Value. We have to share the value of our waste. We have to share the value of our values, vision of community. The second one is collaborative impact. The only possibility to have a social impact with solid waste management is collaboration of all stakeholders. At the beginning, sharing KPIs, sharing measurements. At the end, sharing values and sharing systems. I hope this answers your question. It is not a matter of replication and scale. It's a matter of replication and making maybe baby slots of all this.
Thank you very much. I think, at most, we still take one question, and I think we'll have to end this session. please. Oh, so it's an announcement, isn't it? Okay. I thought it was a question. Okay.
But in a really small village. I work in China, in the remote area. Only 90 families or something like that work, and they share the profit. We teach them to get all the organic waste to a central area, and then each one, all the cow dungs on the road is really dirty. We ask them, each one take one time to sweat all the cow dung, and then go to a central area, and then they share the profit of the compost. So this works. But when we work in a small town, 100,000 people, they're all centralized in somewhere, they're living in high-rise building, 3 or 4 story now. Then it's difficult to use the model, but we use another model. We collect the waste, we engage them because they don't want it. So they don't want to share the profit. But we collect all the waste and then build a composting plant, really small, only 20 tons per day. And it works. And now the municipal government got all the profit, and then they sold all the compost and then utilize in the surrounding area. This is another model.
Thank you for your comment, Professor. I thought you were really going at me, trying to get me down. No, I want to further this because it works the same way in India. The way that Trivandrum actually, I want to raise one good example because I really nailed Trivandrum for being, the next Surat. Because honestly, you go around Trivandrum, there's more than 10 illegal dump fields, and people go to work in the morning with plastic bags in their car to look at places where they can dump their waste because there's nowhere to dump. And a situation like this could lead very, very fast into huge disease and why not a plague. I spoke about this and they said, no, we're controlling things. And I'm like, well, I wonder how you can control these kind of things, but the municipality, the IAS member and the health officer told me, Prashna Milla, which in Malayalam means no problem, koi bat nahi. One thing I want to say though is they have an amazing system which has given the responsibility to the inhabitants. A little bit what you're saying, they have high buildings. In each of these buildings, they have the Kudumbashri movement, local women that are coming either to pick up the waste or they have biodegradable solutions at the top of their building because otherwise the rats comes at the bottom. So some people come every day and pick up their waste and it's part of their job. So people will pay tax in their building and that's very individual. That's funny because it's a decentralized approach to what we're saying here. So then it's decentralized per community of living. So the livelihoods, or you have houses, they have those biogas pipes that most of you may know, and that worked as well at individual household levels. So what I'm trying to say here is, there are two things. What you're describing in your first example is a village example of village empowerment. You're inducing them to think that it's going to be better for them to live in a clean environment and to create their own jobs. But in cities, they don't need to be convinced. They know, but they don't want. So they need to be enforced. And so that's where tax enforcement, aside incentives, has to play a role, and that's where the legislator, the institution, plays such a role, a huge role in managing that market, as well as managing the law enforcement of the MSW 2000. Thank you, Professor.
Okay, thank you very much.